Welcome everyone to our webinar. This is our fifth series, part of our Fitness Unlock campaign that's been running around this year, bringing along experts, thought leaders, partners, and operators into these conversations. And today we have a great lineup of panelists. We have Max, Ashley, and Tricia joining from different parts of the world and sharing different perspectives on what make businesses resilient. So to get started, I would like to hear from each of you a little bit where you fit in the fitness scene and how you're showing up to the webinar today. And Ashley, if you want to kick us off, that'd be great.
Yeah, sure. I've spent over 15 years in the fitness space. I started out as a club operator for quite some time and then transitioned to eVolt to be a national key account manager there. But recently I just founded All Systems Healthy so that I could use my experience to help consult small health clubs and just strengthen their operations. I'm also an advocate for helping women balance their health and their career. And I'm super excited to be here today and give my input and perspective on the industry.
Tricia, you want to go ahead?
Sure, I'll jump in. So I have a different kind of background. I started more in the healthcare industry and as a registered dietitian, and then moved into operations for a organization in the nonprofit sector, gyms that was a gym, mainly gym focused, and then more into the digital health and wellness side of things, and now working with Smart Health Clubs, or SHC, where we have mobile and web applications to really help gyms and studios advance their connection with members and increase their revenue. So really great to kind of work in this area of the business with both nonprofits, for-profits, large and small. And so really getting a sense of what the lay of the land is, primarily in the US, although we do have some global clients. So I'll pass it along to you, Max.
Yeah, thank you. I started my career, funny enough, in the fitness industry, around 16 years ago, more on the machine side, but I think also heavily, machines always include in the overall operation of fitness studios. And then that was in Europe, and then shifted geographically to the US, and started Kisi with two of my co-founders. Before IoT, and before the entire cloud industry happening. And now we service thousands of fitness spaces worldwide, simplify their access, but then going further than that, not only solving the access problem, but also operating, automating operations, and then also building smarter systems to run spaces more efficiently. And that's where we are with Kisi, and thanks for having me here.
Awesome. Yeah. And of course, important to also set the stage and kind of understand the why of this session today or this year. Of course, it's repetitive of me to say that there's been a lot of changes with technology in the last couple of months even, and not just in the fitness industry, but across many verticals that impact how we consume and how we relate to spaces. There's been a lot of shifts in the structures that govern those businesses. So today we really want to talk about what it means to prepare ahead, so that building resilient fitness businesses through technology it's not a scary thing to do, but something that is acceptable, and also something that most operators are encouraged to do. So I am going to be moderating a session, and I'm of course representing Kisi. So really, really happy to know that there is technology that can support businesses in doing that. So yeah, to get started with that context in mind, how would you define resilience in the context of running a business today?
Yeah, I guess I can jump in there. To me, resilience, means staying agile through uncertainty, and not necessarily just toughing it out, and not just surviving. It's about how you can continue to learn and evolve. I think when it comes to the fitness industry, member engagement is what's going to drive your resilience. Clubs that have strong communities, and we saw this going through COVID, clubs with strong communities were more resilient because those members are so invested in the success of that business. They didn't want to lose, their clubs or where they go for their community and their health. So they stuck with them, and those clubs survived. So I think when we look at being resilient in fitness, engagement with your members is going to be number one to get you there.
I love that. Tricia, do you have any thoughts on that as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I think there has been so much change in the industry, and, there's a lot of challenges that operators face. I don't think that's anything new, whether it was 30 years ago or currently. There's always a lot of challenges running a business. And, it could be from, the environment that surrounds us, or it could be from their own internal staffing challenges, right? Getting the right people and getting them honestly in the right positions. I think I hear a lot across the industry as well. And so those are some things I think operators need to think about when running their business, right? It isn't just the X's and O's or the dollar signs, so to speak, but those things are going to impact their bottom line. And I think there's a lot of new things to think about. Today I think we'll talk a bit about tech. I think a lot of those in the industry are talking about layouts and what people are really looking for, strength versus the old Group X model, which is still very relevant, but is that still the way that we run things with hundreds of classes a week? And that was a lot of programming. Are people looking for that programming? Or are they looking for something that they're kind of putting their headphones on and doing on their own? And so I think those are really important things that businesses need to consider when thinking about like the resilience of their business and what that takes in order for them to be successful.
Also, like would throw in basically the tech change overall from a B2C, but also from a B2B perspective. I mean, being in an industry like mainly on the technology part, from I would say like from operational machines inside the gym to like like more technology that runs the facility. I think there's so many changes. If you just think about like lead generation from apps that drive traffic to your gym, and then you have to basically somehow get them into your CRM, somehow give them access, somehow make sure that you ensure like security for the community. I think there's something where you have to be always in the tone. We see that from our side, the requirements to our technology is changing on a quarterly basis, and to keep up, I think it's not something once like developed done. It's constantly changing, and we see that especially with our operators, that they're like tech plays a bigger and bigger role to scale and make spaces more profitable.
Yeah, and Dan, I think going back to your original question about defining the resilience in the industry, I think we're seeing this across all businesses, not just those in the fitness industry, right? We're having a lot of big businesses move into local communities, but we still want some of those mom and pop shops, right? So in the fitness industry, we have our smaller boutiques and studios. We have kind of our local regional players, maybe broad regional players, and then we have the national players as well, all offering different things. And so how do they stay relevant when people are interested in many different things, right? I'll even admit myself, I have 3 gym memberships. One's a big box gym, one's a local nonprofit YMCA, and another is, one that's a little bit more programmed boutique studio where I have to schedule my work. So I think thinking about the consumer is really an important part, and I think thinking about how businesses stay relevant is really an important part of resiliency in today's business model.
Who knew that one day you would have like several gym memberships, right? I'm on the same page.
Yeah, digital and in person, brick and mortar, multiple.
Yeah, I have a couple of them also. So it's almost like people collect gym equipment. I'm also now collecting some memberships and some digital memberships in person online as well.
I think that means you're staying resilient, Tricia, just because you never know. You want to keep your options open. So your memberships is just a strategy. No, that's great. And I mean, Tricia, you talked a little bit about COVID, of course, and Ashley as well, and how, that was basically what kept some of the businesses afloat and made them they were able to survive, it was because of member engagement and loyalty. Have there been any other challenges in the past few years that have really tested businesses' resilience in terms of your experience and what you've seen?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is staffing. In different aspects, we had the big personal training boom where during COVID, everyone thought, well, I can just be a personal trainer and start taking on clients. And so all of these people, I think, I forget which PT certification company came out with this study, but they had the most PT certification sales they've ever had in history during COVID. But the gyms are having a hard time hiring personal trainers. So it doesn't align. And so we have all these people in the industry now kind of doing their own thing, and not necessarily coming to the clubs as much, looking for a job or a career. So I think staffing all around for clubs has been a huge challenge, in addition to trying to keep up with all the new technology coming out.
Actually, question, like in terms of when you say like staffing is a problem, is that what is the biggest problem for staffing? Too
Yeah,
many?
I think not only finding the quality staff, but I think economically being able to pay quality staff. In the US specifically, we experienced some crazy inflation post-COVID. And so our economy is a little bit unstable, but I think people are also finding more remote jobs where they don't have to go in person anymore. So that has shifted as well. Like I can make the same amount of money and be at home versus going and working, somewhere in person. So I think that has added to the challenge as well.
Yeah, I think to Ashley's point, minimum wage in the US actually was increased. So for a lot of gyms that rely on a lot of part-time staff, while that is fantastic for the individuals, right, it creates a little bit of challenges for the business model, and thinking about full-time, part-time staff. Are they job jumping, so to speak, to somewhere that's going to pay them a little bit more? There's some factors. And then I also think, I would say prior, gyms and some of these others were kind of those in the fitness industry, they were the experts, right? And that's really where we went for some of our information. We might have Googled a few things, but now I would say over the past few years, influencers have increased quite a bit. I know a lot of gyms are seeing influencers come into the gym, film in their facility, and then they're getting followers to follow them and pay them. And so little bit of shift in dynamic. You can also get a lot of information readily on the internet, on ChatGPT. And so I think one of the things that gyms have to think about, and those in the fitness industry, is how do we remain the experts in this space? And that could be doing things like a podcast or putting out relevant information that your members are reading from the experts within your health and fitness community.
Tricia, I love that you brought up the influencer, sort of like the creator economy and how that's also changing fitness businesses, because I think we tend to now see things as trendy or basically just like a temporary sort of like famous gym or famous space or famous trend. But that, to the point of resilience, is probably one of the things that can make businesses survive the best. Is just don't become a trend. Make sure that you have a brand and an authentic set of values that allows your members to engage long term.
Yeah, love that.
Yeah.
Agree with that.
Just wanted to connect to the point Ashley brought up with like higher staff costs. I think that's also something we realize on the technology front, that the features that are required, or like, the application of the technology is usually like you have your core hours where like you probably like have, staff on site. However, if I have a 24/7 gym, it's probably from an economic perspective very hard to justify to be staffed for 24/7, because it's the highest cost is probably like labor in a gym. And that's where basically more and more technology demand comes in, like, hey, I have those 4 or 5 hours where I need to contractually like offer that people have access to the facility and can work out like at 2 a.m. in the morning. It's probably not a lot, but it's a value prop. And technology solves that. And instead of like paying somebody to be there for those 4 hours where like probably you have like almost nobody there, that technology enables or runs that space. And that's kind of what we see on our side, that more of those demands come in like from, you know, camera surveillance, access, and tracking, of course.
Yeah,
That-
Max, I think that's so true. Oh, sorry, Ashley or Danielle. I think that's so true. I think in the past, people have kind of technology collected, right? And now they have multiple things of technology. Sometimes that makes things harder for them. Taking a step back and thinking, okay, it is a little bit of a bit different business model now, and how can I use the right technology to maybe streamline my staffing workflows, and where can I do that and where can't I? And I think there's a lot of great technology tools out there that can help with what you said, you know, kind of monitoring the facility or access control, all of those things, automating purchases, all of that, versus kind of maybe the old school way of doing things, but using the right technology for the right reasons.
Yeah, and to build off that too, you know, some people are scared to bring on AI or tech or things like that because they don't want to be replaced by that as well. You know, those who are there that are career driven, they don't want to be replaced by technology necessarily. But, you know, two platforms that come to mind, you know, Max Members AI and GleanTap, they create AI processes that can replace that part-time staff in the case that you don't have the staff or maybe someone calls out. But their platforms will answer the phone. They will answer questions. They will do chat bots online to help with support. It's pretty wild, but that allows your staff to then be more human, I think. You know, they don't have to worry about answering the phone and answering membership questions. They can actually engage with the member in person when they are coming in. And so I think that helps with member engagement, and that's going to increase your ROI, but it also kind of saves you in these kinds of situations where you are low on staff too. So it's kind of twofold.
Yeah, and definitely, I think it also see that it's not kind of replacing staff or members. It's maybe focusing a little bit more on the experience and on like what matters is like your customers, that they're like being served the best and not like filling out like forms that could be fully automated. But at the same time, also like I was in Australia like last month, and I wanted to just go to the gym at 10 a.m. and 10 p.m. at night. Just the experience, like, hey, I can, you know, if I'm in front of the door, I can verify myself and I pay and I have access. I mean, this is also a great experience for an customer acquisition process overall. So I think it's like, it's not, I see it more positive technology than, you know, negative. Of course, I was being biased being a part of a tech company, but it's not replacing humans. I think it's just like better service and then increasing for an operator like better margins in my eyes. And at the same time, keeping a competitive price for the end user.
Yeah,
Very
100%.
important point.
Yeah.
I'm going to segue us into basically how to keep the fitness operations more efficient, streamlined, more automated. But before we do that, I did think about a stat while you guys were talking about manned versus unmanned facilities. And in the last couple of months, we participated in a blog of data for how gyms how gyms that are operated in 24/7 models get their members in. And through our aggregate data, we were able to find out that most gyms that were in locations where digital nomads were more prevalent, that offer a 24/7 membership, had most of their visitors come in really after hours, like midnight to 6 a.m. So sometimes you might think, well, I want to have a 24/7 gym, have it staffed, you know, from 9 a.m. until, you know, maybe 8, something that is reasonable. But then those hours of truly the middle of the night still get members in. And of course, because of the hours that digital nomads might work, they might just have different time zone schedules. It actually did make sense to have the space open during that time. And this is the kind of data that platforms like Kisi will give you, and platforms like your CRMs will give you, or sort of your aggregate integration, so that in that sense, you can find resilience in maybe smaller steps. And we did get a question in the chat as well as recommendations on making the gym as automated as possible in terms of signing up, canceling memberships, booking guest passes, and doing everything from a mobile device. So I think, James, thank you for your question. This is something that we'll continue answering. But it's really, really interesting that you're thinking through this as you open your facility. Like, how can I keep this fully automated before I even start? Because that's definitely going to define your brand and hopefully give you the data that you need to scale up. So Max, yeah, basically, how can technology help operators build more resilient and reliable operations? And if you want to throw in automation in there, that could be very interesting too.
Yeah, I think like one thing is so if you take it two parts, one is kind of like, signing up a new member. I think then it's really important that you like have mobile functionality, can do the entire like checkout online, including like payment, I would say. And then you go basically into the operational part that basically does the CRM you choose, and the front end, and then integrates with like whatever is running your facility. So one crucial part where we work on is really like access and security of the facility, that once you pay, payment data is basically one data point that's okay, whenever you pay, you have access to the facility. A very, very, very strong. It's a very simple, but it's a very, very strong mechanism to make only the members that pay have access to the facility. So one is like the automation and integration that the different systems talk to each other. There's like APIs that talk, or like set integrations that you can just go into the software and connect two systems. I think that's also like a strong sort of key, that we're very open. And then next thing would be once a member comes in, there's like, of course, one thing that happens usually, that you bring in a friend whenever it's unstaffed. That's can also be detected by cameras. So it's like tailgating, and that this event is then really pushed back to your CRM, that you either know, okay, I need to charge that member, or, in the next session they come in, I can have a talk with them. It's like, hey, because of, there are two things. One is like threat for the community, which I would say hopefully is the least, but a second thing is like insurance, right? If something happens to that person who's not a member, the insurance won't pay, and then you basically have a huge problem as an operator. And the other thing is, I would say also like to understand like how's your space used in terms of, certain machines are used, peak times, and things like that. And that basically all this data is feeding back to your CRM. Yeah, I think this is like main thing. Technologies need to talk not only in the fitness industry, overall in like any operation nowadays. You have to make those accumulate data and make sense of it, and that's only possible if those technologies talk to each other.
Yeah, and even if you have multiple tiers to membership, maybe a base membership versus premium access, there are platforms now that allow you to sort of block off those areas. And so only your key tag allows you to have access to those premium services. So that's not an issue anymore for clubs. Before it was, how do I silo different accesses and different modalities or services within the club, if I'm not staffed? There's a solution for that now. So you can make it key tag access, based on their membership level too.
And that's what, just like get in there. That's what a request we get from more and more operators to, I think it's called price differentiation, or discrimination, that you have like, main access, and then you want to have like access to the spa, a conditional access, right? Based on the membership. And again, this is really like the integration between the CRM payment part to like access system. Yeah, that seems to be a trend, because once you have the member, then I think also the upselling part is like really like, the attractive one for an operator. Get it to the next level.
Yeah, and I think that's probably going to become more interesting. Used to be a lot of gyms did all-inclusive memberships, but now with things like recovery and spas and cafes and restaurants, like it's starting to change and evolve a little bit. And I think that is part of maybe part of the resiliency, right? Thinking outside the box, what is adjacent and what would really serve your members in a different way, but maybe not everyone wants to pay for that. So I think that ties back to a little bit of access control, but then also, Max, as you said, the integrations to ensure that those tiered memberships are kind of mapped over into all of your other systems. So whether they're a tiered membership or even a non-member, the system can automatically register whether they have access to that and or charge them the appropriate amount at point of sale.
I'm curious also to hear, Ashley, Tricia, Max, from all of your perspectives, if you've seen any technologies that have really helped businesses mitigate the disruptions. Is there anything specific where you're like, wow, this literally saved you? Ashley, you can go for it. I see your face. You're like excited to tackle this one.
Actually, I'm still thinking, so maybe Tricia could start and I'll come up with something.
You know, I mean, honestly, working, I'm maybe to plug my own company that I've been consulting. You know, one of the things I think is really interesting is if you go to a lot of gyms' websites or open up their mobile applications, most times I consider that they have flat or one-dimensional content. Right? They might have a schedule on there, or they might have information about what they do, and that's it. So I think really thinking about how to make your facility, which is typically brick and mortar, 2 or 3-dimensional in a digital space. And by that, I mean, you know, maybe you're bringing to life, you know, through a video tour on your website. You're creating a dynamic schedule so that when Ashley isn't able to teach her group fitness class, they know that Tricia is, or that the time has changed, and things automatically happen for the facility versus them having all of this manual work. It may be that they're able to book, pay, manage all of their services online. I mean, this sounds almost probably so silly to us because we use Amazon, we go to Starbucks. These are experiences that we have everywhere in our local community. But now with a lot of the enhancements, I mean, members can really kind of get a better feel for what you're doing. You can have videos and all sorts of things about your instructors so they get to know who's maybe the best personal trainer for me. And then they're able to go book, pay, and manage. The trainer can create, you know, workouts and auto-populate in their mobile app so that all they have to do is check the box. So really software that's going to help you operate and your members really feel connected, but also I would say 2 or 3-dimensional outside of your brick and mortar space, right? It isn't just looking at a schedule anymore. It's really leveraging a lot of things we're used to outside of the fitness industry. And those things I think really make a difference because then people feel connected and communicated with, but also really get a sense of like, what is the vibe? What is the feel of your facility? And they want to stay connected to it because they get that more than just when they walk through the doors.
I absolutely love that. And me again with a report that I just remembered about. I should probably reconsider why I think too much about reports. But back in June, I attended the Fitness Tech Summit in the UK, and one of the panels that the two of the speakers led was presenting a report for explaining what other industries is the fitness industry learning from, and retail was really high up in the graphs that they showed, and that's precisely because of what you just mentioned, Tricia, like the experience of checking out, the experience of getting something that you want, and the experience of personalization is really what drives both online and in-person shopping. And the fact that that becomes an expectation for everything else that we do, from traveling to hotels to going to the gym, is really a good standard for industries to think, not necessarily how to catch up, but how to create that experience with what matters in each specific industry.
Many gyms, their revenue line membership comes from PT, right? But PT is a flat, one-dimensional experience for many. And I think where we can learn a lot is maybe from the spa industry. And I feel that I get a lot of resistance from gyms on this. Like my trainers won't be able to put their schedule in there. Really? I think we need to really think about how are massage therapists running. They put their schedule in, you go online, you book, you pay, you know, you buy your session package, you can go in, it knows when you are ready to auto renew. But for some reason in the fitness industry, we're having a bit of a challenge with doing that with some of our revenue generating services. And so I think how to think about, like you said, learning from some of these other industries to kind of mimic that ease of access and taking out those barriers, really to increase your revenue.
Absolutely. And I want to go back to a topic that seems to be coming up often in the discussion, which is just member expectations and making sure that the people that are actually using your space are having fun and are feeling a connection to it. So how do you see member expectations evolving as technology becomes more integrated? Maybe Ashley, now I'll put you on the spot this time.
Yeah, I mean, we have, you know, something like wearables as an example. We want our wearables to connect with everything that we're using on a daily basis. So, you know, we are becoming a very data-driven population. And so, I want my iWatch or my Aura Ring or whatever to track my workout in my gym, and I want all of this data to be synced. So I think that expectation is coming on very strong, and I know that the supplier side, Tricia and I together too, are all trying to work as fast as we can to integrate each other's platforms to satisfy the members' needs. And customization comes into play a lot, for that member experience. There was an article that was just put out about AI readiness score for personal trainers. Like maybe your client didn't sleep well last night and they need a different workout today rather than the normal, hit the ground running workout. And so that's an opportunity for you to have a smarter program for your client. It's more customized. And I think it's important that we're utilizing all of these external technologies like wearables and things like that, and teaching our members and coaching them through what that data means and what's the importance of it, because there is a lot of that trendy items out there that people are buying and wanting. They just think it's cool, but why are we collecting this data about our sleep and our recovery and our workouts and why that's important? And I think going back to what Tricia said, we need to remain the experts. I mean, we want our members to continue to come to us for those answers. And so I think we could do, a better job of that too.
Yeah, and I think we could our industry could really leverage some marketing components of kind of what Ashley mentioned. People will drop a lot of money for an Aura Ring, right? They're dropping a lot of money for a lot of these tech devices, but in some areas we're having trouble getting people to spend more money above and beyond whatever X dollars they're spending for their membership. So maybe taking a look at how we're marketing some of what we're doing, right? A lot of the services I think in the past that gyms have provided have been transactional. They pay, they get the service, they leave, right? And so I talk a lot about transactional versus transformational services. And so maybe marketing your PT as transformational and not how we used to think about it as pre-post, before and after, right? This is what Ashley looked like before, and this is what she looks like now. Yes, definitely works for some people, but thinking about transformational PT and leveraging, as Ashley said, the data, the AI components, how does that come to the member in that digital experience while they're inside and outside of your brick and mortar. And then being able to leverage that in your marketing, that it's not just that they're walking in, they're getting a workout and they're leaving. You're really helping them leverage all of these components. Ashley mentioned sleep and stress and some of these other things, and how are they tying that into their training and their experience with your facility?
Tricia, I just wanted to add to that, since we talked about, I think like the gym or fitness industry for us, like, as a vendor, is like the most challenging one, because you have like a lot of like, members in a club. However, to the data, so an analogy is, we want to get a member into the gym whenever they want to train, right? That's why we like all about like you can online check out and get the key on the phone right away, right? So it's basically when the need is the highest, you can convert them and give them basic service. Same as you just said, like, if you have more data within the gym, then you can increase the likelihood that they, instead of doing like a HIIT class, and they go more maybe like for a spa session because they didn't sleep well and they had or the kid kept them up at night. And then you can convert and really like deliver the value whenever the need is highest, or the willingness to pay for it is the highest. And then it's a match, right, for the customer and for the gym. And I think the data and technology will help you to address those way more, because sometimes you even as a me as a gym member, I just forget about like the services my gym is offering, because I usually don't use them. But if they knew I didn't sleep well, I would definitely book it, right? And that would help a lot, both sides.
These
Yeah,
are all
so interesting.
No, yeah, these are all really, really good, interesting points. And I think you each said something that is also a great segue for what's next, which is how to prepare your business for difficult financial times. I think it's no lie that, you know, beginning of the year, January, February, March, gyms are super busy. Everybody has their resolutions, everybody has their goals. And then once the summer starts, or maybe even before it slows down, but that doesn't mean that your members are not paying anymore. It just means that you're at risk of losing what makes your space special, and yeah, potentially keeping them engaged for when the season comes back. So I'm curious if there's any recommendations on steps that operators can take to prepare financially for slow seasons, unexpected disruptions. And I think, Tricia, what you mentioned about marketing could be a really interesting point as well, where it's just like, how do you engage them to let them know about new features, about new classes, new machines, especially during these times?
Yeah, and Danielle, I know you said you love the data, and you love those kind of metrics. And I think, you know, leveraging that as an organization or as a business, I actually think is really important. Not everybody loves the data, but I think that's really great. You know, and so having that and then using that. So it could members join, gathering interest tags through your digital partner. And now as you go to market them, I think we often treat our members like they're all the same, right? But I think Max pointed out, and Ashley, well, even we're not even the same every single day, right? I'm tired and just want to check in and use the massage beds. And you know, I think that ties into one other a couple components. One, the insurance-based reimbursement memberships, which I know is a huge hot button for a lot of gyms across the country. And making your business dynamic and diverse, I think, can bring people in for different reasons. And they're still swiping that membership card, which allows for greater reimbursement. So that could be one thing, especially in an off-season time. And then leveraging some alternative spaces. There's a growing arm within the fitness industry for recovery, longevity. Nutrition, surprisingly, is making a bit of a comeback with a lot of telehealth companies. So really thinking about how to diversify that business model, but then also knowing what your members are interested in can then allow you to segment market, so you're not over marketing or under marketing to your members, and really hopefully engaging them in a more meaningful way.
That's it. That's a really good point, Tricia, as well. I think we're seeing a lot of fitness operators thinking through different services that they can offer so that they can monetize their space as much as possible, but also make sure that that offering is full, because let's face it, it's a highly competitive space. I think a couple of decades ago, it was just a matter of finding some empty retail space that you could just put some treadmills in. But today there's really a lot more that people want. I mean, Tricia, with your 3 memberships, like clearly it's like, you know, like there are a lot of needs. At some point I also had 2, because I was like, I want to climb, but then I also want to do Pilates, and then I also want to like be able to have some wellness. So it's like, how do you find a space that offers everything? If you can't, you maybe go to multiple, but if you can't, then that's how you keep people for longer terms. So yeah, maybe Max, I'm not sure if you want to share some metrics or indicators that operators should track to know their businesses are becoming more resilient.
I would say probably like also like, you know, I think how often people come in. I think that's something we provide. We do that you know, especially like since you know we basically were born in commercial real estate and then shifted like heavily into the fitness area because like the highest challenge, and we can really deliver like the best value. And part of this is data, that you know how often people really come into the space, how many of those are members, how you know also certain machines are or areas of your gym are occupied. These are like all things you can capture with a camera and then to optimize it, right? If certain areas are like super crowded, I think that would, you know, turn some members off. If it's too crowded, I don't go there anymore. Or if it's like more distributed, or give them data. It's like, hey, this is like, you know, Wednesday at 3 p.m. is like not a busy time, come then. Or provide that data to, I'm not sure if you go to Google and you see like on restaurants and when is like the busiest time, you know, that you have like a little bit more flexibility. Going back to that, what Tricia said, I think giving members like options, right? Even if they want to like don't want to continue the membership, maybe give them the flexibility, because so much money to acquire that customer, and once they're gone, right? Extend it, give them a discount maybe, or like give them leeway, make it flexible for them, even if they like don't want to pay for the membership now, maybe they do want to pay in 2 months again. I think these are like measurements and data points that kind of help you to have a great environment, and also like give the member choices when to come and maximize the experience. And you know, Unfortunately, it's all possible with technology nowadays. Pretty easy.
That's
Yeah, I
awesome.
think that having that flexibility, like you said, Max, to turn it on and off when it works best for you, I think goes a long way now. Back in the old days, you had to sign up for a gym membership for a year and you were locked into that thing, forever. It was impossible to cancel your membership. But we can see this in like streaming services, right? We can start and stop Apple Plus or Hulu or Netflix, whenever we want. I'm guilty of that. When I travel, my heavy travel season, I've got all the streaming going, all the apps, because I need stuff to watch on the plane. And then when my not travel season, I cancel all those subscriptions because I don't need them. And so I think, and like Tricia mentioned too before, is we're mimicking other verticals and other industries. And I think we need to learn more, from those too.
I like that. And earlier, James in the chat asked, what are some recommendations to make the most automated experience the best one possible? And I think would be fun if maybe each of you could, like, from the user perspective, just share what has been the best experience that you've had at a gym when you were like booking a class or signing up for the membership, and maybe also canceling. So if you could walk us through the full user journey of what that was like, I think it would be really fun. Max is just drinking water conveniently.
No, that's a good one. Tricia and I travel a lot, so we've definitely. I mean, I try to check out a new club every time I'm in a new city. But there was one specifically in Toronto, actually, that had one of the best experiences. I was able to go on. I'm not a member, clearly. I just wanted a day pass. And so I went right on their app, booked in for a class, and I don't know what to expect. I've never been there. I don't know what it looks like. I don't know what the class is like. I just liked the description of it. And so I booked the class and I immediately got contacted, like, you're in, confirmation. But then I got a personal email from, and this probably was automated, but it felt very personal, from the coach that was going to be teaching the class, giving me all the expectations. This is what we do. This is the time we start. This is what you can expect. This is what you need to bring. This is what we supply. And I felt so prepared for that class that I didn't feel like an outsider when I got there. Now, when I did get there, front desk, extremely friendly, very welcoming. I appreciate that hospitality feel in a gym. When I walk in, I want to be acknowledged. They knew my name. They had my name up on a board, "Welcome, Ashley." I was like, wow, like they had every T crossed and I dotted. They had a bottle of water and a towel ready for me. They gave me a tour of where everything was. It was just amazing. The class was awesome too, but like the whole thing was just such a great experience. And then I got an email post-class from that same instructor saying, like, thank you so much for coming. Congratulations, you did an awesome job. That seemed a little bit more personal than the initial email, because they did put in a few extra like things that we talked about, while I was there. So that was a nice personal touch as well. So just, yeah, it was just constant touch and constant personalization and making me feel like the best guest possible. And I'm not even a paying member, right? So I was just paying for a day pass. So that was something that came to mind.
I'm not sure any of us can top that, Ashley. I think that's great. But what I think you shared, at least it sounds like to me, is that while there was some actual personal touches, the only I should say the human touch part was that they welcomed you and they were friendly, which is probably what that person was partially hired for, is their personality, right? And then they gave you a bottle of water and a towel, right? Outside of that, maybe the follow-up was a little personalized too, but everything else kind of sounds like it was a little bit automated, which is kind of cool, but it still made you feel really high touch. And I think that's what a lot of gyms and health and wellness facilities need to think about is, while it can be partly automated and partly personal, like that pulled together with a smiling face, a towel, and a water bottle really completed your whole thing, and you felt really welcome. But really, it was just the person at the a desk that had to do something face to face. So that's awesome.
And they're
Yeah.
probably also only so friendly because a lot of things work from an operation perspective that they can really
Yeah.
like put the time and effort into the member or the new member, or the friend that comes with a member, in my eyes.
Exactly. Yeah. I bet everything in the background was automated for them. And all they had to do was write my name on the board and say hello and hand me a towel. So I'm sure that back end was running seamlessly and it worked.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't like they were on the phone. Hold 1 minute. The experience is very
Right.
different. It feels with some just small personal touches that were either automated or again leveraged whomever they hired what they were really great at. And I think that's maybe something like a great learning lesson. We kind of oftentimes within the fitness industry, we kind of hire these great people, but then we ask them to do 500 different jobs and many different hats. But we hired them because they were great at this, and that's actually what they wanted to do. And that's okay to have them do some other stuff. But I think that's where Max, you had mentioned it too, like using the right technology, I think in the right space is like, where do we maybe can we fill that gap to allow that person to be at their best?
I fully agree. My most awesome check-in experience, the most automated one, is completely different from yours, Ashley. But what made me realize this when you were sharing the story is that I also had very different expectations. So this was at a hotel. The gym was open in terms of the windows you could see in, and all you had to do was scan a QR code right outside the door. It redirected you to a payment platform, told you the options. It was only 1 day pass. You pay for it, then it sends you a link. They were actually using Kisi. I found this after. And then once you get the Kisi link, you just click on it, door opens. So in under 5 minutes, they got my money and I got the door to open, which is pretty much the best case scenario in a situation like that, where it's just on-staff gym at a hotel, you're traveling, you just want to get in, do your quick workout, you just need the basics. And then, basically get out. And when that's the expectation, similar to yours, Ashley, when the back end works, when everything is automated, it doesn't matter if you have a person or not, but the member is getting what they want as fast as they can, and you're getting their money as fast as you can as well. And I think that's really when it's a win-win scenario for making money and ensuring that your gym is automated and properly set up. Cool. So I wanna start wrapping up the session. I don't think we have questions, but just as a farewell question from me, I guess, if you were opening a new fitness space today, what would you do differently to make it more resilient? And what would be your top sort of like future-proof features for your business?
I guess I can go first because I think about this all the time. Tricia and I have access to some of the best people in the industry, and I always think like, why don't we all just get together and build the most best gym in the world? So for me, definitely a very solid tech structure. I mean, everything that we talked about today, something that is flexible and can be built upon. I may only need certain things at first, but I want to be able to add on things as we grow. And streamlining systems is important, automations for sure, but flexible design space to allow you to redesign your four walls as you need, as we evolve and change in the industry. It's going to save you a lot of time on construction and costs and stuff like that to sort of rebuild your space. So making it more flexible from the beginning, I think will help you long term in that resiliency.
I think for me, seeing a lot of facilities are across, whether they're big or small, right? A small boutique or studio to, and it's almost hard to really bucket some facilities now to gym plus to full service, right? I think we're seeing the progression of the fitness industry where there aren't really, quite frankly, there's less and less gyms and more what I would call gym plus now, right? Where they're offering these additional services. And so I think while you need to have a very concrete vision for when you open, ensuring that as you collect partners along the way, inevitably, hopefully you do, is whether you're a local or regional or a national, entity, you have partners, whether it be technology partners, local partners, healthcare partners, whatever it may be. Ensuring that those partnerships are ones that you can also grow with, right? I know we've talked a lot about technology, so just to stay in that arm, oftentimes technology decisions are sometimes made by the department head or the person who is in the weeds, which is great. I think we need to make sure we get 100% their feedback, but then also thinking about where the business is going to go as well, and where future things might be in 5 to 10 years, at least where the owner or the GM sees things going, and ensuring that partner you're working with you're going to be able to grow with that partner. I think oftentimes we pay for or acquire services that fix that fire right now. And while that is good, we then accumulate them, and now we have a lot of layers within our system. Max really talked about, integration. Ashley did as well, and how things need to work together. So just really being mindful of the acute things that are happening, but also the long-term vision of where you'd like to go, and making sure that those partners have the capacity to help you with your long-term vision.
Max, do you have any last thoughts?
Yeah, I think like to be honest, I think also talking to like a lot of gym operators who either have like several gyms, so they need to scale, or they have a gym as a passive income, so they need to automate. And I think Tricia, to your point, I think I think due diligence in terms of which technology are you using, because switching costs are usually high, and that they fulfill basically your short-term needs, but then also like the long-term needs. It means like which features they're offering, and then that the overall UX. I think this is like one of the biggest points in technology, because in fitness you have to service like as a technology vendor, you have to service the customer, and you have to service basically the gym. So the UX has to be good, has to be easy, because I think with any interface, whenever it takes a little bit too long, it's in a matter of seconds, then you kind of like either gone, and that really can kill the experience for your brand. And I think this is like something that's super important by choosing the right vendors, that also, which I also would always ask, like, do they talk to each other in terms of, oh, they have an integration, but how well connected are different teams, different vendors, different companies? Because there will always be challenges down the road, and then usually like the better the relationships are, the faster those problems will be solved. That's kind of like from my own experience, one of the major points, and just to keep it at the technology choice.
Awesome, guys. We do have one question now from Dan Reeves. For a 24-hour on-demand facility, do you know of any apps or technology that we could partner with to track progress for member workouts or run a promo contest? So Tricia, I think Smart Health Clubs could be the right choice for that.
Yeah, so we do have a lot of we actually have about 11 solutions. Is kind of how we bucket it, and our kind of member loyalty, or is how we term it, is something that we have that could track that progress. We also do have some integrations, working on one with our body composition partner, but also looking at the workouts that they're doing. And if you're a facility that does other things, keep that in mind. So whether it's Smart Health Clubs or a different software that you're looking at for that, do you want to reward them for other things than just working out? I think Max talked about, like other services, we talked about making the gym diverse, so making sure that it's tracking fitness progress, but maybe progress in other ways as well, could tie into their evil body composition, right? Have they made progress with that body composition versus just weight loss? So just think about those things as you think about the culture of your gym and what you'd like it to be. But those are things that we can do, as well as challenges and some other things.
Cool. Well, on that note, we can start officially wrapping up. Thank you, everybody, for joining. You will receive a recording of the session. This will be on our website and YouTube, so you can share it with other friends, your network, generally anybody that you think this could be interesting to hear. And we have a next session happening in November. So make sure you also subscribe to the entire campaign, and then we can invite you to that as well. And thank you, Ashley, Tricia, Max. You were all great.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
You, Daniela.
Have a great
Alrighty.
day.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Bye.
Bye.